I'm the person who has seen this show before.
I'm a person who's never watched an anime.
Hero Babble, we are Hero Babble. Hero Babble, we are Hero Babble. Hey, hello and welcome back to the Hero Babble podcast. I'm your host, Michael.
And I'm Spencer.
And today, we're coming at you via power outage. We are really going above and beyond to get you guys this episode, so don't say we never did anything for you.
Exactly. We're in a new studio as well.
Yeah.
You know, our previous studio, obviously very famous, where the Beatles recorded Abbey Road.
Yeah.
As you could tell by the sound quality of previous episodes. This, we're doing a little different.
Yeah. We kind of wanted to go for something a little bit more down to earth, kind of get back to our roots.
Right.
And so now we're right by a train station. So if you hear any, woo woo, is that a train or was it Ava 2? We'll never know. But yeah, so if you hear that, kindly just ignore it. That's what we're trying to do. So
yeah. The other thing that's a little different about this episode is typically Fernie and I don't watch the episodes together. That way we always have our thoughts meeting each other for the first time live. This episode, my power was out, so we watched it together for the first time. And so because of that, I saw a very different dub than I'm used to, which was very odd for me, but really fun.
Yeah, I will say, I guess it is a nice kind of change of pace, just to kind of bounce off your, thoughts of what you think of this dub versus Netflix and, kind of weigh in on, if those changes are good or if they're,
Well, it's just something, I feel like it's part of getting into anime, right?
Yeah.
Like, for me, having never watched it before, you always hear about different dubs on different places. Me and you have been watching two different ones. Yeah. So I feel like I'm finally coming to grips with the fact that you can get a completely different, character study from watching a different dub.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think you said that the Shinji in this one sounds way more...
Yeah, my Shinji impression from previous episodes does not make sense if you're listening to this dub.
The original 90s dub.
Yeah. The Netflix dub is very different. Shinji is a lot more like high-pitched, childish sounding. He's like he kind of picks his words carefully because like he's so nervous constantly. He's like tripping over himself to talk.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, he seemed a lot more measured. He kind of just like knew the right thing to say. And obviously he's getting more confident as a character. But still, Asuka was pretty much the same, but Ritsuko was totally different.
Yeah.
Shinji was very different.
Misato too, you said, right?
Yeah, Misato was really different, and Shinji's buddies, Toji and what's the other kid's name?
Kensuke.
Yeah, reporter kid.
Well, I initially called him Kendo, which isn't it. That's like a sword form or like a sword training.
It's a good nickname. It's just too close to Gendo.
Yeah, well, that's kind of why I made the association. So.
But anyways, it was fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I at least got to experience that, at least once on this show.
Yeah.
Do you know if the movies for this are done by the cast that we just watched on your dub, or?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I would definitely... I'll probably end up going back to check before we watch those just to see.
Yeah.
Because now that you mention it, I would be very curious to know if they are the same or if they're the ones that do the Netflix one, and maybe that's why Netflix went with them.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I gotta say, I don't necessarily like one over the other. I think both of them seem natural. It was just kind of jarring to see the immediate changes.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I mean, as we talk about the difference in dub, today we're covering episode 12, the episode which the Japanese title is She Said, Don't Make Others Suffer for Your Personal Hatred.
Yeah.
Bit of a mouthful, but I think in the context of what happens this episode is very poignant.
Yes, that's a very aptly named title.
Especially for our main girl, Misato.
Yeah, our main chick.
Yeah, well, I mean, we both kind of looked at each other after the opening scene, where it basically shows what is the second impact happening.
Yeah.
And you watch her being carried, which we later find out it's her dad, but she's being carried and it looks like his skin is melting.
Yeah.
Or like if it's a glove that it's melting, but he lowers her into the pods that look very reminiscent of the Ava like escape pods that the pilots go in with. And then he closes it right as Misato comes to.
Yeah, I don't know. It was tough to tell because they did a great thing with the animation where they made it so the tones were all very similar, but they're all like super hot colors against each other because they're just showing like massive explosion.
Yeah.
Super, they're like right at ground zero. And I mean, yeah, it was tough to tell if like he was melting or if he was just like covered in blood and it was dripping everywhere or like what was going on. But it was kind of a brutal opening, but one that I've been waiting to see for a long time is more info on that second impact.
Yeah. Well, and even if it doesn't show much, I mean, I think it paints a really clear picture for what kind of, I guess I would say, especially coming from Misato's perspective as someone that witnessed it firsthand, their perceptions of the angels and their thoughts on just the like second impact and kind of what Nerv is doing and the importance of it. And that gets elaborated on further in this episode because it really talks about the ideas of purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
What are your motives? And kind of calling into question, are those motives valid?
Well, yeah, we've started to see the characters. It's like the characters quit just being like okay with what they're doing and they started questioning it. Like I think in I forget which episode it was, maybe like episode 10, Shinji randomly asks, like, while they're walking through a tunnel, like, how come we're fighting the angels?
Oh, episode 11.
Yeah. And, like, I love getting the main character starting to question, who's on the right side. And, since we're the warriors in this war, are we going to be remembered as the good guys or the bad guys?
Yeah, well, and I think Asuka says in response to Shinji asking that, well, duh, we're the good guys. Like, we're just defending ourselves because they're attacking.
Yeah.
And Shinji kind of accepts it, but isn't necessarily satisfied with that answer.
Yeah.
So, pretty much the episode opens, you see kind of ground zero of the second impact. Misato gets thrown into a safety pod and wakes up. Then it cuts forward to a bit of a risque shot of Misato getting ready. But that essentially leads into, Toji and Kensuke are over and, they're hanging out with Shinji. And Shinji makes mention that she's been working a lot of late nights. And, they're like, oh, well, we should be quiet. And then she just kind of appears.
Yeah. I love that the first thing that Toji and Reporter Kid even asks Shinji is like, well, where's Misato at?
Yeah.
Like, where's my girlfriend at? How am I gonna get in her pants tonight?
Well, and it's after Toji makes that smooth rebuke back to Asuka where she goes, I'm changing. You guys better not look in. And he's like, why would anyone want to see a snake shed its skin?
As Pen just walks in there.
Yeah, as Pen's like, yeah, whatever. She won't fight me. But Misato walks in, and both Toji and Kensuke are like, oh, hello. Sorry, did we wake you? And she goes, no, I was up. And then Kensuke notices a new medal on her collar.
Right.
And she got promoted from general to major.
Yeah.
Which... It's kind of it's like a really big deal. Kensuke bows and you know is very much like, hey, that's amazing, congrats. And
right, but it's not surprising because like the last several episodes we've seen Misato come up with these crazy plans that work, and she's really been the main mastermind behind beating the angels. So it's not crazy that she would be recognized.
Totally. Well, and I know in episodes past, I've kept saying, oh, Misato and her crazy plans, or, oh, there goes Misato with a crazy plan again. you know, and so on the one hand, yeah, those all paid off and they all worked out. But I think this is kind of the first episode where I, for one, and we'll get into what this crazy plan was, but it's when I watched through it, I was kind of like, okay, Misato, you know, I get we're all about the crazy plans, but maybe this one time, I don't know.
Yeah, like this one might not work.
Yeah, and I mean, pretty much after, you know, they have that moment where Shinji's like, hey, Misato, congrats on your promotion. And she's like, thanks, Shinji. It cuts to the synchronization test where Rei, Asuka, and Shinji are kind of testing their harmonization with the Evas.
So, just to clarify, because I remember them mentioning this like in episode 5 or 6, or like one of the first ones that we meet Asuka.
Yeah.
They mentioned, like, you know, that while Shinji and Asuka were together, working together there, that they reached some sort of peak synchronization rate at that time. So is this basically just them, like, are they mentally being put through a scenario, or are they just like meditating with the unit, or like what's
I think
happening?
they're being put through a scenario to see how high their synchronization rate can get.
But it's all just, it's not physical.
Yeah,
it's
it's all simulated. And so I think that that the mental like sync between the Eva and the pilot is what leads to a better functioning, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know that Shinji was like an immediate, he immediately synced with his Eva unit like right off the bat. Like, Rei tried to protect him in like the first episode. Mm-hmm. Whereas like we've seen Rei at first struggle with that, and now she's coming around.
Yeah.
To the point that I think at the end of the sync test, Rei had the highest or something?
No, so Asuka finishes with the highest, but Shinji had the highest growth.
Oh.
So he still was trailing like 50 points behind Asuka, but he's improved by 8% in 10 days. So Ritsuko, once they exited the test, was like, that's huge.
Yeah, and Asuka was like, yeah, well, it's nothing compared to mine. And she's like, yeah, but he's exponentially catching you, so...
Yeah, and then she was like, okay, you can have this win today. And Shinji was like,
oh, okay.
Whatever.
Because I remember her kind of saying some BS to Rei, calling her the third child, blah, blah, blah. Maybe she was saying, like, you'll catch up someday to, you know...
Yeah. Well, and Misato makes a... She says something during the sync test where it's something along the lines of, I know he doesn't want to be a pilot. Like...
Yeah, well, yeah, the guy next to her that usually just yells, like, they've breached the island, you know?
Angel incoming!
That guy's like, yeah, this kid is sinking, like, way better than last time. He's born to pilot Neva. And she's like, yeah, actually, he hates it.
Yeah. Which is interesting because Misato in like earlier episodes said it with kind of like a, you know, it's your duty. But this time she kind of says it from a perspective of, yeah, he hates it. And almost there's like an empathy there of, yeah, I can kind of see why he would hate it.
Yeah.
But
they're sort of connecting. Like, this episode's really interesting because as you learn more about Misato's backstory, you start to see parallels between her and Shinji.
Yeah.
And you start to see why they work well together.
Yeah, well, and so after the sync test, it cuts to them having a little get-together in Misato's apartment, celebrating her promotion.
Yeah.
And Shinji kind of leans over and goes like, hey, congrats, like, how do you feel? And she goes, I don't really care about it, you know, it's just another thing to me.
Right.
And Shinji's like, yeah, I get it, like, I hate being praised in person too.
Yeah.
And she goes, and then I think they look at Asuka or something like that.
Well, her and Toji are fighting like always.
And Shinji's like, yeah, but it just seems like Asuka loves it. And Misato goes, oh, is that weird to you? And he goes, yeah, I just don't get it. And then Misato goes, you shouldn't care so much what other people think. And I was just like, huh. That's then immediately interrupted by Ritsuko and Kanji walking in.
Yeah.
And then Misato and Asuka are like, oh, Ritsuko.
Kind of convenient, huh?
What are you doing with our man?
Right.
Our shared man. He's the only one here. Interesting.
Even though, like, Yeah, like Kaji and Ritsuko have seemingly have a relationship together at the moment.
But yet him and Misato are hooking up on the side.
Yeah, see, I don't know how fractured that is. I don't know how much Ritsuko knows, but at the same time,
she's got to know enough.
Yeah, she's too smart to not know.
Yeah.
I just don't think she cares.
Well, and I also just kind of feel like there's probably a part of her that just knows, you know, in such close proximity, it's bound to happen.
With a man who never shaves like Kaji.
Yeah, and a ponytail that holds itself up.
Right. I love that they have that line that he never shaves, and like they only animate him with like 3 or 4 pieces of scruff.
Yeah, I wouldn't shave either if that's all I could grow.
Right. So he's like he has the worst beard of all time, and they're like, "What a man!"
Yeah, and I'm just like, good thing I grew this beard.
Yeah,
Shoot.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Kaji's back in a big bad way. I like Kaji. At first, I didn't like Kaji because he just kind of interrupted the play between everybody, and you know. But once they started digging into kind of where he's sort of mixed up with everything with Gendo, and he's kind of he knows a little bit more than he leads on. Like he's more than just a pretty face to screw up the friendship and the dynamic. He is actually there for a reason, and we're all kind of learning why. Now I really like Kaji. Like I'm excited for him to show up so I can keep learning more about him.
Totally. Well, and he even, despite like mockingly saying it, I mean he fully acknowledges that Misato and her hard work is what got her that promotion.
Yeah.
And of course, he says something like, "Oh, I guess I can't keep saying mean things to you now." And Misato goes, "Well, what does that mean?" And he's like, "You know, things." And then it just cuts to them leaving. Well, but I actually don't think it cuts to them. The next scene is Misato driving with Shinji in the passenger seat.
Oh yeah, well I see what. So what happened there? Because did they go in like is that where it ends up with like the sunset talk between them?
Yeah, it shows them driving and like I forget what exactly is said, but it just shows them driving. But then it cuts back to the Nerv team finding out about the angel that just showed up.
Oh yeah, like in the Indian Ocean or whatever.
Yeah, and it's no, it's not even that. It's the I'm getting all crisscrossed because it kind of jumps back.
It's the South Pole. They go to the South. They cut to Gendo and his right hand goon.
Yeah,
in the South Pole.
Because Ritsuko mentions that now that Misato's major, like she's in charge of everything,
right? And
she's like, especially while Gendo and the henchmen are away.
Yeah.
And Shinji goes, "My dad's gone?" And she goes, "Yep, he's at the South Pole." And then it cuts to the South Pole.
Which has just pink water and iceberg candy canes and blue puffy sky with the northern lights. And it's just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, and it is interesting because you hear this banter between Gendo and his right-hand man. And they're kind of going at it a little bit, not like yelling.
They're jousting a little bit.
But there's an intellectual, back and forth where I forget the name of his right hand guy, but he basically goes, "Yeah, this is the result of what happens when, we mess with things out of our control."
Yeah, yeah.
And Gendo goes, "Well, science is what will end up leading man to being all-powerful." And he was like, what you see around you is the, result of a world free of sin. And then the guy his right-hand man goes, "Well, I would rather live in a world with people."
Right.
And then the conversation ends because the intercom cuts in and they're like, "We have found an angel up in the stratosphere."
Yeah.
And it just looks like this triple blob
eyeballs, yeah.
But
super weird looking. It's like the weirdest yet.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you think, well, they've done it all with the angels, they come out with some crazy ass design.
That always is really like you'd be hard pressed to find similarities. There are some that look similar because they have that little mask thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But even then, it's kind of a mixed bag across the board.
They've all been different enough for me. Like I think the only two that were similar was the one they had the water one in the episode where you first meet Asuka, and then kind of the one that was in the volcano looked kind of similar, but those are very different
Yeah.
animals, but
And then you've just got trapezoid.
rhombus on its axis.
Yeah, there we go. Raxus.
Raxus.
Rack City, bitch. Rack City, Raxus.
No comment on
but anyways, I don't know. What did you think of that back and forth?
Dude, it was good
on?
because it was like, it was progress versus like recklessness.
Yeah.
Like Gendo's pushing, we need to keep going on this because we need the truth and the truth will free us.
Yep. And,
you know, his right-hand goon is just like, but at what cost? Like, what does it even matter if it kills everybody? And, you know, science matters a lot to find out more. And humanity is always that curious drive to find more.
Mm-hmm.
But if it results in annihilation, then it's for naught.
Exactly.
And I think that's the argument there.
Yeah, and then it kind of leads to a bigger question of, what is the point of fighting angels if the end game is somehow going to result in, you know, there being no humanity to protect?
Right.
Which is kind of the implications I feel like they're poking at in that back and forth. And
I mean, it's one thing for Gendo's right-hand goon there to say that, but at the end of the day, he's still riding in a boat with Gendo to Candyland as they're hauling the biggest dildo of all time.
Yeah, which... Damn, I wonder what that is. Shit. I guess we'll never know until we watch another episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very cool back and forth, and then it gets, you know, interrupted by Three-Eye Angel just floating.
Third Eye Blind.
They just do like the intro cover for this one episode. But basically, this angel is dropping little pieces of itself. And essentially, it's kind of like the egg drop test that you did in like science fair for middle school. Except this time, it's creating huge craters in the ground.
Right.
And it's slowly getting closer and closer to Nerv headquarters. With the final end goal being it's just going to drop itself kamikaze style.
Yeah.
Which, what a plan.
Great plan.
Honestly, well, a great plan until it got foiled.
Yes.
Which, I can't wait to gush about that scene.
Yeah.
So pretty much, Misato's in charge. Ritsuko basically says, hey, this isn't looking good. All three of the supercomputers are saying we evacuate and we just kind of let it run its course because we don't have much of a chance of taking this thing down.
Yeah.
And then Misato goes, well, what if we caught it?
I know.
And Ritsuko's like, that is not only reckless, but you have like a 0.0000001% chance out of 10,000 that it'll work.
Right.
And Ritsuko goes, but it's not zero. And then Ritsuko basically goes, why? Okay, that's just reckless. You're being absolutely ridiculous here. And then she says a line, are you just doing this because you want to get revenge for your dad?
Yeah.
And then it cuts away. But then it basically kind of answers this question of, okay, the guy in the beginning was her dad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Shinji, when he asks her, why did you join Nerv? Which, by the way, I forgot to mention, happens at that, like, celebration party for Misato.
Yeah.
But she just kind of shrugs it off. She's like, you know, I had my reasons.
Right.
I've been in it for a long time. And Shinji goes, oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. Dude, I'm not going to lie. The openings, not to go totally back to the opening, because it is related to this, but my conspiracy theories about clones and everything, I 1,000,000% thought the opening was, like, until it cut to Misato and you kind of realize that, okay, they're doing a thing where that was Misato.
Yeah.
I 100% thought that was Gendo, like, laying down his wife to die, who he would then clone. And I was sad when it was
Misato and her dad.
Just my favorite character, you know?
Yeah. You hate to see that.
Kind of a shame there. Missed opportunity, honestly, but I'm still going for it.
Well, I like it. So yeah, pretty much, you know, you get this kind of brief insight through Ritsuko that probably a driving force for Misato is revenge.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because Asuka is like, yeah, you know, we kill the angels, we're defending ourselves. But then it also paints this picture of putting some context into these crazy plans. Because on the one hand, Misato has her duty, and I think that is unwavering.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unwavering to a point that, especially in a circumstance like this, where Ritsuko hasn't shot down her plans in the past, but this is the one where she's even like, hey, I think we should really hold off.
Yeah, well, a lot of things make sense after this episode because, you know, Misato seems very bright. She's obviously very intelligent, but when it comes to battling these angels, she's such like good soldier. She'll do whatever they want her to do. They always use her to come up with crazy shit. She saved them countless times. Like, she'll do anything to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
So now it makes sense that it's personal for her. And that it's not just that she works for Nerv like everybody else. It's that she wants these dead.
Yeah.
And done. And so if her duty is to kill angels, if that's her job description, then damn it, she's going to do it.
Yeah. Well, and that's even further emboldened by she pulls in the 3 Ava pilots and basically says...
For the briefing.
Yeah, and she's like, okay, this is the plan. And all 3 of them are like, what? You want us to catch it?
Yeah, they're like not on board.
They're like, are you sure? And she goes, yep. And if you guys do it, I'll buy you a big steak dinner.
Yep.
And initially all of them were like,
wow,
nice.
Steak?
Okay.
Wow.
And then she walks away and Asuka goes, really? A steak dinner?
Yeah. What does she think, we're 5?
And then Shinji goes, yeah, well, I mean, it's okay, I guess. And then Asuka goes, yeah, your wow was like, really genuine.
You were really convincing back then. See, I honestly fell for it.
Yeah.
Because when that happened, my mind was like, oh, I forget, like, they're kids. You know, and they love steak. And that's special for them. And I'm glad they're going to get it. And then when they were in on it, and they were like, I mean, come on, guys, steak.
Yeah, and I love how Asuka goes, man, the second Impact generation is so weird.
I love that, too. It's like, it's just good. It's good in universe.
Yeah.
Like, where that makes sense to us.
Yeah.
But, like, it also makes sense in this fictional universe.
Totally.
And then Ray's just over there like, I don't eat meat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
She's like, I will not be joining.
Yeah.
I don't eat beef.
I'm becoming rampant in my cloning, and I need to return to my base. What?
Huh?
I don't eat meat.
Well, and so the 3 of them are kind of... Well, oh yeah, and Misato also asks them too, do you want to fill out a will in case you die?
God.
And Asuka's like, no, I'm not going to die. And then Ray goes, I would not like to fill one out. And Shinji goes, yeah, me either.
Yeah, me either. I'll do whatever they're doing.
Yeah, whatever. Okay. And then, so the briefing ends, but then it cuts back to that scene where...
Whatever my dad wants me to do, I'll do that.
I mean, that's a little foreshadowing.
Yeah. I have seen the end of the episode.
Me too. So then it cuts back to that scene where it's like sunset and Misato and Shinji are driving.
Okay, yeah, that's this is what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so
right.
it cuts back to that, but it cuts back to them actually talking.
Dude, yeah, and the music is so good. It's
very,
like that
very good.
Kind of, dude, it's that kind of Japanese kind of smooth jazz. Final Fantasy 15 had like a lot of that kind of really pretty jazzy score. And this totally matches that. And it just like puts you in a good mood. It's totally the opposite of the like timpani battle music that follows it.
It's kind of, I feel like it gives this aura of melancholy.
Yeah, I agree.
And it fits really well too because basically Misato kind of bears her soul to Shinji and just goes, you know, I grew up hating my dad. He was an idiot. Like, he was a scientist, but like people would call him like emotional or sensitive, but he was just weak. And I, you know, was so glad when my mom divorced him.
Right. Because
I was tired of seeing her cry. And then he saved my life. He sacrificed himself for me.
So let's talk about that for a second. Because I have a lot of questions, and I'm sure that maybe more will be answered later, but she sets this up like he was a total dick and devoted his life to this cause that wasn't my childhood.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, he ended up saving me, but, like, it's by his own doing that we were even there.
Yeah.
So she kind of has resentment towards him.
Totally.
But I almost, like, I want it to be more like a Superman scenario where, like, her dad essentially sent her away, like, in the rocket ship.
Yeah.
To save her while he perished. But, like, she doesn't see it that way.
No, because she says a line where she's like, I don't know if I should love him or if I still hate him.
Right. I want her to love him.
Yeah, but I can also understand, too, it's kind of like, what's the name of that thing where it's like people fall in love with their saviors? It's like, if you, like, there's this, it's like a psychological phenomenon where if someone saves your life, you fall in love with them.
Yeah, that's in, like, all the movies ever.
Well, but it's like a real thing, too.
Yeah.
It's like an infatuation with your savior. Not saying Misato has the hots for her dad, but something like that could very much directly conflict with how she wants to feel.
Sure.
But at the same time, you know, she's very much just kind of like, I don't know, he saved me, and I'm still here.
He's like, I want to... She's almost like, I really want to hate him, but I'm kind of indebted to him.
Yeah. Well, and it is interesting, too, because the way she describes her dad is very similar to Shinji's dad.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about earlier, like, where this episode really shows you that they match up really well.
Yeah.
Like, they understand each other. Even if you don't think that Misato understands Shinji that well, she totally does.
Yep.
You know, she just has to play adult sometimes.
Yeah, well, and I think the cool part too is, though, it's great because Misato was initially the one that was kind of the reason I think Shinji wanted to stay, and so having that kind of shared bond of, you know, she admits that, like, you know, I want to defeat the angels, like that's why I'm here, that's why I'm at Nerv, you know.
Yeah.
But Shinji is still kind of left with that question mark of, well, why am I here?
Yeah, and we have asked that multiple times.
Yeah,
like I can't, like the amount of times that I'm like, he doesn't owe them anything.
Nope.
And yet they ask him to be there, and he is. This episode answers that question.
Yeah,
he's a simp for daddy.
He is. Well, and that rings very true.
I guess we'll get there later, but yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much after that flashback to them kind of talking in depth about their daddy issues.
Cue the battle music.
The battle music kicks in, and what starts next is hands down probably one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Because basically Misato gives them the briefing and goes, here's the range at which this thing could hit. And all three of them are like,
everywhere.
That is big.
Yeah.
And she goes, that's why all three of you will be stationed in these three spots so you can get to one another quickly.
Yeah.
And they all pop up out of the ground in their respective spots. They're kind of getting prepped. And Shinji has this flashback to him saying, I won't run away. I can't run away. I can't run away. I can't run away. But then he kind of has this resolve wash over him where he is like, I won't run away. I'm not going to run away.
Yeah, what was the flashback that
I think he basically was just kind of thinking really hard about other situations he's been in. And I think in that flashback it showed him all of those other times, like laying in the bed after his first Ava unit, like him freaking out during his initial times piloting. But then he thinks of Misato.
Right. He thinks of times where he probably felt like he wanted to run away.
And then this is the time where he's like, I'm not going to run. Like,
yeah.
Which is so cool because then when all three of them detach.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Seeing like Shinji just take off is so cool. And you watch these skyscrapers pop up around him. You watch Asuka like hurdle over power lines and Rei is just running. But it's so cool because just seeing the scene where Shinji pops up and he's like, AT field, activate, and you just see this huge wall and he's just like, he's taking it like just taking it full on. And then like Rei shows up and she provides her like assistance, pulls out her knife, cuts through the field, and then Asuka shoves up and just stabs the angel right in the eye.
Yeah.
And it is just so fluid.
It was really, really good teamwork.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned last episode too, that they're getting really good at working together.
Yeah. And
like they were, you know, Rei and Shinji had their struggles for a while, and then Asuka came along, and I think that kind of elevated them.
Yeah.
And now they've kind of gotten over their issues. They're working together. Like this was clean.
Yeah.
Like they defeated the angel, except for that one that was like set to the music.
Yeah.
Usually they defeat it, but like there's a couple issues that they had along the way.
Yeah.
This was like clean.
Yeah. And even that last episode, very clean too, but this was like no hesitation, in and out.
All cylinders firing, yeah.
Yeah, well, and so then it shows the angel land on them.
Yeah.
And then it's like the equivalent of a nuke goes off.
Yeah, I know. Dude, at first I was thinking that, well, shit, this looks similar to the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
Like, they failed. Or like they thought they won, and it just still happened to destroy them.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't really tell how big the blast is from the animation at first.
No way. But it's it's so great because you just watch this explosion and then it cuts to the three of them in front of Misato.
Yeah.
And Ritsuko, I think, goes, "Incoming call from Commander Gendo."
Yeah, they're like, "We got the Wi-Fi back again."
And the call comes in and Misato's like, "Hello, sir. I apologize. I was in charge while you were away and some damage befell on Ava 1. I'm very sorry, and I will take full responsibility." And Gendo's like, "That is what they're for."
Yeah.
He's like, I don't give a shit.
He's like, "Did we kill the angel?" Yes. Okay, good job.
Awesome. And then he goes, "Is Ava 1's pilot there?" And Shinji goes, yeah. Yes. And Gendo goes, "You did an amazing job out there today."
Yeah, he says, I quoted him, he says,
"Oh, yes.
Good work, Shinji." And that was like...
And Shinji was like, thanks. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Commander, Dad.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, Daddy.
My goodness.
But
that was cool to hear. That was heartwarming to hear because it's like baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps. Because up till now, he really hasn't gotten anything.
And, like, even then, Shinji is really pulled through in probably like episode 8 forward.
Right.
He saved Asuka. He jumped in with the tandem dance to kill the twin angels. He absolutely bum rushed the shit out of this one and held it on his own for like a good 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's...
I mean, without him, Japan would be in the ocean.
Yeah. Well, they would have been done episode 1.
It's just crazy that, like, by all accounts, after episode 2... Shinji's dad should have welcomed, or Gendo should have just welcomed Shinji in open arms, like, "You're an amazing son.
Yeah.
Let's patch this up."
Yeah.
But it's taken, like, so long just to get one compliment.
It's taken basically half the season.
Yeah.
To get, one single...
Well, Gendo's been gone half the time anyways.
True.
Including this time.
But even then, it's like, good job, Shinji. Anyways, we are going... But,
here's $20. Ramen on me tonight, boys.
Well, it's funny because then it cuts to them going to get steak. And Asuka goes, "So, where are we going, Misato?" And Misato goes, "Well, I took out all the biggest bills I had, and now I'm broke." And then they show up at this little cart ramen stand.
Yeah. So I wonder if they ended up there instead of steak because Misato couldn't afford it, or because Rei was vegetarian, so they just went to...
Well, no, Asuka makes a comment. She's like, "Misato, we know how your finances are." Like,
as if like they do them for her.
Yeah, and then she's like, "This is fine." Yeah. And then makes a comment like, "And there's no beef, right? So Rei can have some." And then they're sitting there, and Shinji goes, "I think I know why, like, I'm here and like, why I want to be
unprompted."
Unprompted. They're all enjoying ramen, and he's like, "I think I know why I want to be a pilot, and it's to get praise from my dad." And
they all like.
And then Asuka goes, "That's your reason why you're a pilot? You're an idiot."
I know.
And I think you said after, you're like, "You're right."
Yeah. I mean, jeez.
literally pick any other reason. You can choose anything else.
He literally could have said, I think I'm a pilot because you're forcing me to be. And I would have bought that more than because I want to make Dad. Dad said good job today or good work. And
you know me, I love my daddy.
What if he said that tomorrow too?
That'd be 2 times.
Yeah.
I've never even heard it once before 2 hours ago.
Exactly.
Anyways, I love my dad.
He has like spaghetti-o ramen and he just spells out I love Dad. Dude, he's just a simp for Daddy. I mean, that's it.
I will say though, it's not as if it doesn't make sense.
No, he has a lot of trauma related to his dad. He wants it to work really bad.
But at the same time, do yourself a favor, boyo, and maybe just don't.
I say, why doesn't he just nut the fuck up and talk to his dad?
Well, his dad's not even there.
Yeah.
Absent father syndrome.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm sorry I did that to you, buddy.
I don't even... Because I'm not going to joke.
How do you follow that? I mean, honestly, though, Shinji's dad has pretty much... He's disowned Shinji, in my opinion, to this point. Because the amount of times that his dad chooses not to speak to Shinji.
Yeah.
Like, they've been in the same room. And he has interacted with other people in loving ways around Shinji multiple times. He's heard stories from other people about how kind he is, about how, how much how much compassion he shows for his workforce and for Rei and for everybody else. That it's sort of as like, at this point, he's dead to me.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, so the fact that Shinji is so locked in on making him happy.
And really clinging just to that, like, the bare minimum of praise says a lot about that dynamic.
It irks me a little bit. I think it's in character, though. It's in character.
It's in character, but
so it makes sense. But it just irks me that he is that desperate.
Yeah.
Even in that moment, if he said, I do this on the off chance that I get to witness thermal expansion again.
Would have been better.
I mean, he's got 3 sets of boobs to his left.
He literally could have said, I just want to save you guys.
That would have been really heartfelt.
Yeah, but I do think, though, like, when he said, I won't run away.
Yeah.
That, I think, was really aimed at Misato.
Yeah.
Like...
I agree.
Because it's kind of like we talked about in your favorite episode, episode 4.
God damn you.
At that point... You raised a really good challenge to my thoughts on it, where you were like, how, if this is him finding his place to belong, it's kind of like the bare minimum. You said something along those lines where you were like, it just doesn't feel as though they did much to give him a reason to stay. Him
coming back was not earned at all. See, this is the beauty of this show.
Yeah.
And, we get this a lot from our fans, is that why do you do this show? But this is why it's interesting, because now with the knowledge that we have on being done with episode 12, episode 4, I can see why you would love that episode, having watched the show multiple times.
Yeah.
Because you understand both the backstories of those characters coming together in that moment and finding a home together. Yeah. Whereas for me at the time, it's like, who cares about either of you?
Well, and I think even on my first viewing, I really liked episode 4.
It is a poetic episode.
I did, mainly just because of the emotional, idea of belonging. And I think that's what that episode hones in on. So
it totally is.
But I think in context as well, I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't let that knowledge impact viewings of it again. But still, I completely agree that, as you see what happens here, it's very easy to look back at that and go, oh yeah, so this was a setup for what would lead to, a really cool, relationship building moment between Misato and Shinji.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, I totally buy that. I mean, I just looked back at my notes. I gave episode 4 7 out of 10 mechs, and I used to grade a little bit easier than I grade now.
Yeah.
I probably realistically would have given that like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
But looking back on that now, I'd probably give that like an 8 out of 10 episode.
Really?
Yeah, because it makes a lot of sense now, story-wise.
I'm looking back at mine too, just to see what I gave it. I think I gave it a 10. I was,
yeah, you at the time that was like the best episode.
I did give it a 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
no, this episode makes that episode worth it.
Yeah.
And makes sense and fit in the puzzle that is this show.
Totally. Well, I guess on the topic of mechs out of 10, what are you going to give episode 12? She said, "Don't make others suffer for your personal hatred." Which, I love that title, by the way. That is very...
Dude, it's perfect.
That is, like, because especially as you finish the episode, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. And it almost sounds like it's something Ritsuko would probably say to Misato at some point.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Dude, it does.
So what would you give it out of 10 mechs?
It's a good question because I didn't give it a rating before we started filming because we watched it together and then literally turned on the mic. I'd probably just give this a solid 8 out of 10 mechs.
Yeah.
Like, this was a good episode. This show is firing on all the cylinders that they have, in my opinion, at the moment. They might have more cylinders down the road. But for now, I think they're pretty much just par for the course. They've been knocking them out of the park the last couple episodes. Yeah. This one's really good. It has, like, funny moments. It has kind of those really deep moments that this show does a really good job with just really good dialogue. The team is working really well together. The visuals are stunning, especially that in-fight sequence is really smooth. Yeah. So, yeah, I'd give this just a great, 8 out of 10, great episode.
Hell yeah. I'd probably give it a 9, just because that final action sequence really just fucking...
Dude, it
kicks ass.
It's nice for me when the episodes now are starting to tackle some of the bigger questions from earlier on.
Totally.
Because for the longest time, this was like a slog of questions. And now we're getting... Then we had a section where it was like questions and answers, questions and answers. Yeah. And now we're starting to get some answers for all these things, and it's making them really... I don't know. It brings a lot of satisfaction to me to watch this show. Yeah. Because I'm getting rewarded for the time. So I like it. I was going to say, the one thing that I thought really stood out in this episode to me is they have that sequence where kind of Misato and Shinji were kind of talking on that like hillside that they drove to in the sunset. Yeah. And I think that they did that in like episode 2 or 3 or something too. They drove out to the sunset and watched like Tokyo 3. Okay. And I don't know, it was just a really nice callback to their relationship and the growth from when they were like first, like when she was first trying to make him comfortable, and now where they're both comfortable and they're sharing kind of intimate in a kind of a non-romantic way, like a family type way. Yeah. Together. I thought it was really nice.
It is. I really hold a lot of high regard for that scene because I think, and it's just nice too that this episode really kind of breaks wide open Misato's backstory and gives you a good glimpse into why she is the way that she is, and kind of plays on those ideas. I know I mentioned it in the earlier episodes where it just seems like Misato is going out of her way to just kind of shit on Shinji and say, why are you complaining? Like, this is your duty. When in reality, it may be like his duty, but it's, she also empathizes with the idea that sometimes you don't really have all the reasons and you don't have all the answers. So,
yeah, no, dude, I don't even think that we gush enough about how good the animation is. Yeah, like that. It surprises me every time we watch it that like this episode aired on pretty much almost on Christmas in 1995. Yep, and it looks clean, dude.
Yeah, especially the like Ava scenes. Yeah. Top notch.
And like all the character designs are unique. Like I can tell I'm never confused over what character is which. Yep. And like the Ava designs are great. The Angel designs are always different and great, and they just continue to. I don't know. I'm just impressed, man. Like absolutely. I've kind of seen a lot of like highlights of anime shows in passing, and I'm sure that if you watched the show from start to finish, it wouldn't be confusing. But I always just kind of felt like I had a hard time knowing who was who and what was going on. Yep. And this show just eliminates any of those issues because everything is so clear and clean right off the bat.
And it's very confident in the direction, both like in terms of art and style, and like it knows what it wants to do and it sets out to do it, and it doesn't pull any punches in getting there, which I think with that kind of drive forward really helps in kind of like you're saying, solidifying and cementing, you know, the themes, the characters, the world, like giving a good kind of, you know, something you can sink your teeth into. It doesn't feel shallow, and it never leaves you feeling as though, like, you know, okay, that happened, cool. Whereas this has weight to the moments that it needs to, which is really cool.
Dude, it is weighty. It's good. So the only loose end that I had before we wrap up, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about because they did have a small, like, evacuation scene in this. They only evacuated, like, 50 kilometers.
They said, like, D-rank employees and civilians.
Pretty much just, like, the immediate area of where this is going to happen.
Yep.
They should get out, otherwise they're fine.
Yeah.
But, like, we see the buildings retract again, and we see the traffic jams of people trying to leave. And I guess, like, it just dawned on me watching this today. Like, these people went through probably, like, a decade of drills.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really get to see too much of, like, the fear that just the general public would have when these massive eyes would appear. Or, like, they did drills for so long, and now, randomly, they could just be told, you know, hey, evacuation in 5 seconds, your whole house could be nuked. And and I guess, like, it'd be... Not that this show even has the time for it, but I would love to see an episode of this show from, like, the ground level of some kid that's just, like, at school in Japan.
Yeah.
And to see, like, how does that work with their family? Like, what if the dad's working here, the mom's working here, and those buildings are tracked, and where does the kid go? And, like, the inner working and logistics of it, because I'm sure they're planned out.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, like, I would really enjoy seeing... this movie from the opposite, or like from the public perspective.
I think the movies dive into that a little bit, so I think you'll get your wish.
Yeah, dude, it's like, you know, did you ever watch the Clint Eastwood movie Flags of Our Fathers?
Yes.
It's like the Iwo Jima war movie. Well, they came out with like the second movie of that called Letters from Iwo Jima or whatever. I forget exactly the name, but. And basically, it was the same exact movie, same events, but told from the Japanese perspective.
Yeah.
And it just wove this really incredible story where you understand both sides. So now when you watch the main one, Flags of Our Fathers, it has, like, that much more weight.
Yeah.
And I just think that something showing that would give the Ava moments even more weight. Because for me and you, when we watched the episode... Like, when it was happening, you're like, dude, this sequence is so fun. And, like, me and you were like, man, this action is great.
And then you watch a skyscraper fly in the background, and you're like...
oh, my God.
Does that one not retract? What do they do?
Right. And I don't want to get hung up on that, because it is badass, and it is, like, a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But, like, I just... I'm interested in the logistics of Nerv and everything, so I would appreciate knowing more about that, but...
Totally.
That was just a thought.
No, I think that's a great thought. And I mean, the show does such a good job of building kind of the world that it almost kind of begs the question, when will they show it? Yeah. And I don't want to dive into anything, but I do think the movies also illustrate that a little bit more. So
yeah, I'm excited to watch those too.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. Dude, another good episode down.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm glad we both have favorable reviews of it. If you watched at home, let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know what your out of 10 mechs score would be.
Yeah. We should do we should try to get everybody to post their mechs, and then we can do a fan average mech score compared to ours and see what we get.
That'd be great. Well, you know, I'm Michael.
And I'm Spencer.
And this has been episode 12 of HiroBabble. Thanks so much for listening.